So here is another really huge topic that I'm going to try to break down to the simplest terms as I can. Again, this is not meant to teach you everything there is to know about a licensing contract, because that's a whole other class. But it's a place to start understanding the basics of a contract. So the good news is, someone just called you and said, "We would like to license some of your artwork." And then where do you start? Generally, a contract will be drafted by the client, or maybe they will expect to see your contract. If you don't have one, that's another topic as well. But at some point, a contract will be drafted. And these are the highlights of what will be in that contract. First of all, you want to know who are the parties in the agreement. Generally, that's going to be you and the company who is licensing the work, the manufacturer. So it might be, in our earlier example, it was for the cupcake artwork and it was the Big Coffee Cup Company. So it's you as the artist and the Big Coffee Cup Company. And what is the artwork? The artwork needs to be very specific, what you are licensing to them. If you have a whole collection and they're only licensing one piece of it, you need to be very specific about what piece that is. Sometimes the artwork will be specified on what is called an addendum, and that is the final page of a contract that will spell out exactly what they are licensing and for what products. So the next one is, what are the products they are doing? Again, that might be handled in the main body of the contract, or it may be in the addendum. You want to be very specific about the artwork and very specific about what products. This is, again, where people have gotten tripped up because they haven't been specific about the products, and then the client decides to do a bunch of other products, which would be great in theory, unless you have already licensed those categories to someone else. Little detail, make sure those products are very specifically spelled out. You also want to know how and when you will be paid. Of course, that's a really important point, so you know when you can expect your money. And who has legal ownership of the art? We talked a little bit about selling versus licensing. This is the place on the contract where it will be very obviously spelled out who has legal ownership of the art, whether that's you or whether you have transferred the rights to that client. Be very specific about that and make sure that that is in your contract. And how can the contract be terminated? Sometimes contracts are terminated because the product did not sell, and that might be spelled out if it doesn't sell a certain amount, that you can regain the rights to that artwork for something else. It might be terminated because the company went bankrupt. You want to make sure that there are specifics in the contract that talk about the termination and under what circumstances it can be terminated. And what is the geographic territory of the agreement? Is it North America? Is it worldwide? Is it Europe? Make sure that is inside your contract. And of course, what is the time period that the contract covers? Is it a 3-year deal? Is it sometimes contracts renew? So it might be for 3 years and then renews every year until someone says that they don't want it to renew anymore. All of that will be spelled out in the contract. Now, like I said, this is work for an attorney or a consultant, again, to make sure that you really understand that contract. If one is offered to you, you need to understand it. You're a grown-up person. It's your responsibility to understand what you are signing. It is a legally binding document. When we're talking about legalities in licensing, we talk about contracts and we also talk about copyrights. For the sake of this class, again, I'm just skimming the surface, and in the resource section, I have a link to the U.S. Government Copyright Office that will spell out all the specifics of a copyright and what it means and what it does not mean. So we're going to broad brush this. A copyright is created automatically when an original idea is transformed into a tangible form. Meaning, you cannot protect an idea, a concept, a method, or an art style, only tangible work. So when you actually do a painting or a drawing, once you have it down on paper, a copyright is implied, even if you have not registered it. I highly recommend that you register your copyright, at least in the United States, that means that you can receive damages in any kind of copyright dispute. You may have a dispute with someone about your copyright, and yes, you do have one automatically when your idea is transformed into a tangible form. However, without registering it, you cannot receive damages, and people can really dispute it. By registering it, you are planting your feet on that date that this is your artwork. Understanding your copyright is really important. There are two additional things I want to tell you about copyrights. One is you will sometimes see in forums and Facebook groups that this thing called a poor man's copyright, where you take a copy of your artwork and you mail it to yourself and you never open the envelope because the postmark from the post office documents that it was sent to you on that date. This is totally wrong. There is no such thing as a copyright that you use the mail service to secure. Just do not do that. The only way you are legally registered with the Copyright Office is to register it with the government Copyright Office. Just so you understand that, I just have to tell you that. And one more point. A lot of artists who are new to this side of the business feel a little bit funny about showing their artwork to clients that they don't know because they're afraid of someone stealing their ideas. Let me clear this up immediately. Reputable companies that license artwork are not in the business of stealing other people's ideas. I know that sounds simple, but I have never heard of a company doing that. Now, that is not to say another artist would, or possibly a manufacturer that is not reputable. That is part of the risk that you take to have your work licensed and to have it on product, is that you are going to have to show your artwork to someone. So you need to swallow and get over that part of it. And as I mentioned, there is more information in the resource section for you to learn about copyrights and contracts on a much deeper level.